Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Exercise is Bullshit. I'm your host, Logan Emmett Hurley, joined today by Jack Stiele, also known as Little Jack, the Quad God. Uh, Jack works over at JackedNLeen Gym. Many of you may have heard us having Jack O on here before. So, Jack, why don't you just introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about what you do, how you got into fitness, just kind of your little, I don't know, 2 to 3 minute bio. Go for it.
For sure, man. Yeah. So I'm Jack. Got into health and fitness when I was in high school. I've always known what I want to do at a young age. I gravitated towards sports and played football and baseball in high school. Got injured playing football. Long story short, took me away from baseball and I had to kind of find a new outlet. And that's why I kind of wandered over to the gym, started a Lifetime Fitness. Did it more so for just the fun of it with the bros back then and kind of turned more of a passion once I got out of high school and kind of asked myself what made me curious. And I look back at what I naturally gravitated to at a younger age, and that was the weight. And through it, I kind of found myself in the sense I was once overweight, had a weight loss journey myself that way, and I realized how big of an outlet it was for me, not in the aspects of just getting the physique I want, but that mental clarity it gave me too, and it gave me that freedom to realize that I am the architect of my own reality, and I can really take strides and leaps. And it's what I kind of fell in love with it and wanted to speak my truth about it too. And that's when it came coach, and like 2021 became a coach at Lifetime Fitness, and that's where I actually met Jack O. And became my coach and mentor around that time there too, and everything's just kind of blown up since then. Since that, I live by the words learn, apply, and adapt, and that's what I do on a daily basis, and continue evolving a new me and chasing excellence on a daily basis, and want to spread that love back, the knowledge back to other individuals, so they too can strive towards their calling, their passion to the full capabilities. I do truly believe that's through creating a strong body, strong mind, strong life, and that's from that self trust and putting in the work to create the life you want to live in and out of the gym, so to speak.
That's awesome, man. That's a really great kind of recap of everything. So you've been a coach now since 2021. So you're coming
Mm-hmm.
up on 5 years, which is awesome. I think the first couple years, everybody kind of just, fakes it till you make it and
Mm-hmm.
see what other people are doing. And obviously you had a really good tutor because Jack is a brilliant coach and he's been doing it for a long time as well. What would you say is kind of your specialty? Now that you've kind of transitioned into working at JackedNLeen Gym. And for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with Jack Ostin, Jack and his wife Eileen started a company, JackedNLeen, super cute, creative. After a few years, Jack was, this is the other Jack, was collecting equipment all over the country and kind of storing it up and always had this dream of opening his own gym, which he finally did. What was it?
24, yeah,
24, like
yeah,
end of
yeah.
24. Little Jack, myself, a couple other buddies. I didn't do much of the work, but I came in and helped move equipment around. And
Greatly appreciate that. Yeah, that was
yeah,
cool.
yeah, no, it was cool. It was cool. So, just to see Big Jack put this kind of dream into reality, and he's created one of the coolest gyms I've ever been to
Mm-hmm.
in Rogers, Minnesota. Insert Little Jack now, Jack Stiley. Kind of tell us, what is your specialty now that you've been there? How do you really try to focus and help your clients?
What I've gravitated more towards here is individuals. I like to help anybody ever to begin with, right? I know it's a very broad niche there, but more specific towards individuals I truly love is to see individuals who want to develop and chase excellence and evolve into their best selves, and kind of driving towards individuals around my age, because I'm 24 here and I know I have a lot of wisdom for my age. Everybody tells me I have a very old soul, and I'm not saying I know how to do things right, but I live by peace, love, and joy. Those are kind of the metrics I want to live by, and that's the metrics I want to spread. And I myself kind of gravitate towards mentoring, so to speak, coaching other individuals around my age individuals from anywhere from 16 to 30 years old, kind of around that boat there, that want to evolve. Now, if they're bodybuilders, that's right up my niche for sure, kind of hypertrophy aspect, weight loss aspect, where it might be that way. Those are people I love, so to speak. I have a lot of fun with. Kind of my niche are those individuals there, but that'd be my specialty. But I also have broad spectrums where it's more powerlifting, some sports background that way too, weight loss, and pretty much anything and everything. Your goals are my commands. But if I had to really specify, I'd say hypertrophy training, more so bodybuilding, that aspect there.
Yeah, I love that. And I think most trainers probably tend to, focus in some way or another on Gen Pop, but that's a great way to get people to kind of
Mm-hmm.
figure out like, oh, I didn't even know I wanted to be a bodybuilder, but now I've gotten results and I'm doing this. Speaking of which, is totally unrelated to the rest of this, but Jack and I actually shared some clients back in the day. How are Mark and Julie doing? I know they've been just crushing it, right? Are they still
Dude,
going
they're
strong with you?
they're in a great flow right now. It's cool because I'm always at the approach like you're the one standing your way from reaching your goals, right? It's I can give you the perfect plan, but if you can't execute that plan, then it's not the perfect plan, right? So I'm a big believer in like 1 degree turns with certain individuals kind of mean where they're at, but a level above that, 'cause they're at where they're at for a reason. It's exactly what I kind of approach with like Mark and Julie that way too. It's cool seeing them continue making flips. I know Julie's down. She just hit a weight loss goal of like 160 pounds. So we started at 200 at the beginning of the year there, down 40 pounds from that avenue there. But more importantly, they're establishing the right habits to keep that weight off and keep that health, longevity, bone in the backbone there too. So it's really cool seeing them continue making mental flips, and there's a great handoff that way, kind of flowing through, kickstart, and to just continue riding that wave to reap the rewards.
That's awesome. We'll give them my best. So, one of the things I like to do on this podcast, Jack, is just kind of see, especially in this field, I feel like there's kind of two directions that most trainers go in. So you get sort of the people that get locked into an ideology or a sort of belief system early on, and they kind of never change their path, right? Like maybe they get involved with kettlebell training, and kettlebell is the only way they'll ever train, and everything else is dumb or sports specific or explosive, whatever it might be, right? Or there's people that kind of get their foot in the door, and then they realize, oh, like, it's kind of the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? The more I learn, the less I feel like I actually know. So
Mm-hmm.
what is something, because I know, especially working under Jack O, he's obviously science minded, evidence based, maybe pushes back on that kind of verbiage a little bit now, because that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of associated with some douchiness, unfortunately. But in your mind, what's something, the last 5 years, let's say, that you really have taken like a complete 180 turn on, that you used to believe 100% until you were presented with enough compelling evidence to the contrary,
I think I could
specifically around exercise and fitness?
could it be something more nutritionally related to that too?
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
perfect.
100%.
I
Yeah.
think what I've realized more so is when I first started my journey, I can speak anecdotally too because I'm seeing it myself that way. It's kind of falling in the routine of not really caring what eating, kind of just hitting more macro based is how I first approach it, and you can see major results off that, right? I mean, if you're doing nothing, then all of a sudden you're actually tracking macros, game changer, right? Because now you're gonna have some sort of structure. Take that even a layer deeper there. It's more of that micronutrients approach. And one person I'm learning a lot from, his name's Chris Masterjohn. He's a total nerd in the industry, right? So I'm doing a lot of deep diving. He has a subscription you can go through, articles that come out every week, deep diving like micronutrients, and that's the approach I take with myself and other my clients now too. Is more that micronutrient approach to their nutrition, kind of diversifying, hitting their vitamins and mineral needs to help with the uptake of their nutrients. And personally, from applying it to myself that way, I've been tracking my food, eating more micronutrient approach for the past like 2 3 years now as I continue evolving. I've reaped more than I sowed. I'm what 11 weeks, 12 weeks coming up post show now, and I'm at 2,500 calories a day. And I was at cruise dosage for gear, and I put on 31 pounds. And I think that's because I was at a very, very home, like very optimal position where my partitioning of nutrients was just in a good spot. One, because I was very lean to begin with. I'm very insulin sensitive, right? But two, I had the right nutrients going to the right spots at the right times for the uptake there. It's not just random protein sources, random carb sources, random fat sources. It's things that are benefit me based off lab works, based off working with Jack for a while there, where you see what trends I kind of apply to. So it's not like it's a time thing, right? Seeing these trends, but taking that micronutrient approach has truly changed my outlook, not on just like the physique I'm getting, but my mental clarity too that way. And in the past, I'd be the first one to say it's like, just eat your protein. I mean, I can tell
Yeah.
you now, I remember
Chicken,
starting to eat
rice,
that
and
lifetime. Yep.
broccoli.
Just
Yeah.
choking
Yeah.
down chicken, just drinking, swigging water and get it down too. So I thought that was the way to go. I had to be hardcore with it when in reality, man, just diversify the foods, have an array of micronutrients that way, and you're going to have great uptake with all that.
I love that. So talk to me, go just a little bit, maybe a layer deeper on that. What does that look like for you as a bodybuilder? Maybe just walk me through like a day of what eating might look like, as opposed to just the traditional chicken and rice or turkey and rice, or, eating some pineapple. Okay, like what does that actually look like? And what are you focusing on from a micronutrient perspective? Like walk me through your thought process a little bit with that.
So right now it's 2,500 calories. Obviously, it's not. I'm 217 pounds, so it's not a ton of food for how big I
Yeah.
am. So it's the diversity of it's not where it could be, and of course, the more food you have, it's scenario based. What scenario in? If we're growing, obviously, we're gonna have allocate more foods. We can diversify a bit more, come from different sources that way. So I kind of time my foods throughout the day of when I'm hungry, but also when it's optimal for training. So right now I'm training more midday. Today I trained a little bit earlier for this here, but typically I'm training more midday. So I have a couple meals in me, and a lot of that's going to be I've had the lower, like, I had low fats coming into show, so it's kind of reversing out. I'm still on my reverse diet right now, hence why it's like lean meats like the chicken tenderloins. I have avocado oil kind of paired up on top of that, more for the micronutrients of that there too. And just kind of paired up with what we kind of saw in my lab work. My HDL is a little poor, so we're kind of focusing on fats through that, fats for omega 3s through different supplementation that way too. But kind of pairing it up where 2 meals in and then around that peri workout window. So before, during, and after, that's where the bulk of my carbohydrates are. Carbs and electrolytes, so it's things like coconut water, I have some oatmeal, blueberries, some egg whites, chicken tenderloins, 2 whole eggs before, something I know I can fill and satiates me that I can train like an hour and a half later on. And around that pair workout window is where I pair up like some like coconut water or palm juice that I drink the first half of the workouts for, again, sodium, electrolytes, kind of paired up with relight there too, but also just an extra carb source, that glucose fructose blend, kind of different digestion that way to prolong my energy for that later half of the workout, and pair it up with my later meals that way, where maybe I'll have a bigger, heavier carb meal. Like it's my chicken, white rice. I have some like green bean carrots on top of that, some honey there for another source of quick carbs post workout to kind of replenish everything. And then something a bit lighter around dinner time. I personally don't like to eat a ton of food before I go to bed that way. I'm a little hungrier that way. So if I just something there, I can have a little bit of carbs. Then I take some supplements before I go to bed that, or right before that, before I go to bed. I find myself to be in the best rhythm flow that way. But how I look at it from a approach from other individuals that way too is, what are their needs? What are they lacking? Obviously, the best way to kind of go based off that is looking at labs. What are they lacking? And kind of filling their needs that way too. For example, if low iron, well, how can you get some sort of beef with some sort of vitamin C source in there to help with the uptake of the hem iron? Different things like that. That's a good Julie case right there. With low
Yeah.
iron, she had, it's the exact approach we had there
Yeah.
is upping the red meats, upping like kiwi around that, strawberries, whatever might be for that vitamin C aspect there. So that's the level I take with nutrition. There is, who am I approaching here? So if I was approaching Logan, what is his needs and how can I pair that up with what's applicable to him right now? And then how can we optimize that down the line there?
Yeah, I love that really detailed description of everything as well. So, I obviously want to talk about your coaching style and your approach and some of that stuff today. But I think the bigger thing, and we talked about this a little beforehand, is just as you mentioned, you're still in your reverse diet. You're coming off of your first bodybuilding show. Talk to me a little bit about what that experience was like. Maybe just big picture first, like what show did you compete at? What category were you in? And then maybe go a little more into the timeline of preparation and things like
Perfect. Yeah. Heck yeah. So I did Minnesota State this past November. I was in men's bodybuilding, so I did the true novice, novice, and then the open light heavyweights. So the weight cap on there is like 196 pounds. This will be my this first NPC show. So I did a show naturally actually in 2023 as
that.
a
Okay.
first official show, first NPC show where it's actually enhanced. So this one, having the perspective, that first show doing it naturally was fun, but damn, it digs you deep that way. I mean, if you talk about test scores, my test was 87 post my first natural show there. Yeah, dude, you felt
Jeez.
every bit of that too. It's like
Wow.
no energy, flat mood, all that
Oh
there.
my gosh.
Kind of coming have that perspective into this show. I loved every moment of it. I'm very process oriented. One thing I try to preach and teach myself and try to be in is the moment here. Like right now, I'm very ingrained in the conversation I have with Logan here. This is my purpose, is my task right now, right? So I try to take that kind of approach with my prep there too. I mean, I got the point where when I was 5 weeks out, I had 75 minutes of step mill every day on top of 15,000 steps a day. Step mill doesn't count towards my steps. On top of my training, on top of my clients, on top of only eating 1,200 calories a day. Dude, that was a
Got it.
dig, right? That was the last
Yeah,
5 weeks of
jeez.
prep that way, and my mindset's really what made the difference. And I'm a big believer that mindset's everything, bro. Everything starts as a mental thought, and if you're able to master your mind, so to speak, become the observer of your emotions and feelings, you're able to attack anything in front of you. Why? Because you have the standards and systems holding you up to get there. And as every prep I do, I learn something more about myself, and that, oh my goodness, I have a whole nother flip I can make, and I'm truly limitless. So through it all, it's like I loved every moment of that, and I posted a lot of it on my Instagram stories of just like peace, love, and joy, putting empowering emotions behind what I get to on a daily basis, and I'll reap more than I sow. Of course, I'm competing to win, 100%. I want to win, right? But whatever at whatever place I get that way is not the ultimate goal. The ultimate gift is bring my best self and being surrounded by the loved ones that are there to support me through it all.
So before we get into what the outcome was and how that whole process was like, talk to me a little bit about, let's rewind to what was that process leading up to it. So maybe what was the bulking phase beforehand, and then what was your actual prep timeline where you finished
Perfect.
with that 5 weeks of I would want to kill myself.
Uh, so we had a couple growth phases. Like I mentioned, this is my first enhanced show. That September, I competed in November of 25. That September of 24 is was my first exposure, my first time exposing myself to gear. So right off the bat, there we had an initial growth phase. That was like through pretty much is late September, so pretty much beginning of October
Of the same
through
year?
of 24 into the new
Oh,
year's of
got it, got it.
25.
Okay,
Yep. So
got
like
it.
January, February of 25 is when I approach like my first like mini cut. After that, like first like 20-week growth phase. Then we hit like a 8 to 12 week mini cut there, kind of got myself in a good position. And then we did another growth phase until around July. So it was a bit short of a growth phase. I want to say it was right around like 16 weeks. And then we hit that prep. I wanted a bit longer of a prep because I know I hold, hence why I had to do so extremes, and hence why I'm going off 2,500 calories. N
Yeah,
equals one. Everybody's gonna be different, right?
yeah.
So with that, we knew I was gonna have to dig a while. So we gave myself like technically a 20-week prep, but I started around 23 weeks out. Uh, Late June, early July was kind of my go mode. It was our transition from a growth phase to a prep. I just considered it prep because I'm in it. And then throughout July, August, September, October was leading up to that final November 22nd with the show. So late November there. Obviously, we kind of take it week by week how we approach our the progression there is okay. What was our rate of loss this week? How's the fatigue? How's the energy? How's the hunger? All these different variables we took. And I'm one that, again, I can be the mindset. Obviously, 1,200 calories, I'm starving, but it's a feeling I get to go through, right? So I continued those things there too and gave the feedback to my coach, Jack. And we can continue just kind of unwinding and kind of find that rhythm flow that best fits us, either adding in cardio or taking away food. More than likely, it was both on those days there too. But through it out, I could tell you now, I was progressing through most of my motions until like 4 weeks out is when I started to maintain my weight. But at that point, maintenance is progression since I'm lowering my body weight, but maintaining my output in the gym. I'll take that as a win because I'm maintaining the tissue I want there coming to showtime. So that was a kind of the grand scheme of it. Growth phase, mini cut, growth phase into a prep scenario, and that kind of first exposure. So it started in 24, a couple months in, all of 2025 into that November of 25.
Okay, and that's, I feel like, a very realistic and good time frame, especially for
Mm-hmm.
somebody that's maybe considering doing like an NPC show, where it's like, yeah, your prep is 16 weeks is typical, 20 weeks, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot leading up to it before then. So I think obviously working with a coach in that timeline is super important.
100%.
So talk to me. Let's maybe split it up into say three phases. I'm sure it was more than that. What did kind of the transition look like over the course of, again, big picture, because I'm sure there was very specific week to week changes, but
Mm-hmm.
like in the beginning, how many days a week were you training? What kind of calories were you eating? In the middle, when are you adding cardio? Like, what did that transition look like, so people can maybe have a broad picture idea of like how it starts versus how it finishes, if
Beginning
that
of
makes
prep to like
sense.
end of prep, that kind of
Yeah,
timeline,
to end
just
up
prep.
prep.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect. Yeah, so obviously, kind of transitioning out of that growth phase, you kind of go back to maintenance, like a little health cleanup phase with like our TRT cruise phase with gear dosages that way too. So I want to say I was at 150 test and 150 mast every other day that way. So I know total, so 300 every week that way is my cruise dosage, and we actually rolled that out for the majority of prep, probably 6 to 8 weeks out when we dropped in a little more mast. I didn't take any orals or anything like that too. I was just on test and mast. We bumped up mass for more of that hardening effect later on. Getting ahead of myself there. That's down the line. But to begin off there, we had that kind of cruise kind of go into that beginning. So say it started 20-week prep is when we started prep, for example. That 20 to like probably 16 to 15 weeks out for that first like month and a half there. I pretty much rode even, maybe increased cardio a tiny bit. I actually started on the treadmill. Our first big adjustment was switching from incline walk for my cardio to the step mill because I actually need to get my heart rate up a bit higher that way. And it did shed a lot more fat as soon as I transitioned over the step mill that way too. For sure, I saw the difference in sense of not just heart rate. My recovery is money, but I could feel myself like burning more, if you know what I mean
Yeah.
that way.
Does Jack keep a just a visual look? I know when he was working with me in the past, and then other people that he's trained too, he mentioned like doesn't really care about what the DEXA says or anything like that. Is it purely visual, or were you getting tests done as you were going through the course
I
of
was
this to
just
see
going
what your
off scale weight and visuals. 'Cause on stage, you're gonna be judged on look, right? So it's kind of the objective look that way. It's Obviously, you want the muscle mass, and if you're skinned out, peeled, and you win the show, you got the look, you got the muscle mass, right? But every week we went off based off looks, and we had some other like deeper variables on like the blood pressure and fasted blood glucose. That's something we do every week that way, kind of get a bit deeper under the hood. But then when we got to 12 weeks out, so after that 15 weeks, 12 weeks out is when I got labs pulled again. So we got labs pulled at like the end of my health cruise phase, kind of right before I started prep. About 8 to 12 weeks later, I got it done again, kind of see where metrics are at. And they were in a good spot that way too. So we kept digging. That 12 week to say that 8 to 7 week time frame is where we kind of upped it a bit more because now we have 2 months out and I was in a decent spot. I was definitely holding more. And I know my body. It's as soon as you make that flip, then I'm able to shed, right? But my body likes to hold for the longest time. So about 8 weeks out is when we started increasing cardio. We took a unique approach to it. Instead of doing like straight cardio across the board, we kind of approach it the same way with our training. So when we increase cardio, we decrease my training a tiny bit. I was running a 3-on-1-off split for the majority of prep, and then probably 10 weeks out, we dropped a leg day because it's push pull legs, rotating through on. So 3-on-1-off. Once we got to about 10 weeks out, we went to down to a 5-day stationary split. So it was a pull off, push pull legs off. So Monday, Tuesday, push pull off. Wednesday, push pull legs. Thursday through Saturday, off days, Sundays. So
So
on those
just
off days,
one leg day for bodybuilding is interesting too, but you
yep.
already have great leg genetics,
Mhm.
so that makes
Again,
sense.
that's the n equals one. Yep, it's
Yeah,
my legs can hold, my legs will blow up, and we did add a little bit of leg extension that first push day. So we had like 2 or 3 sets at the end of there just to
got it.
get some adequate volume
A
on there
little more
too.
stimulus. Yeah, got
Yep,
it.
yep. So we are getting something twice a week that way. But we kind of carried that over. But what we did there, once we had that 5-day set split, on those off days, we actually increased my cardio on those off days there too. So we actually went a bit higher and a bit lower on those other days there too. So we got to the point where I just go 75 minutes across the board. But we're trying to find something where, all right, when you don't train, let's not do 60 minutes and 2 hours of training. Let's do a half hour and then our training there so we can get more output on the training. And those off days, let's do 60 minutes fasted in the morning that way, drive that fat loss and have all that recovery for the rest of the day that way too. When we did that, yes, we started seeing that trend go down more and more. Then probably 5 weeks out, when we hit that next kind of stall point, and that's where we kind of go all out
It's
that
like,
way. So
sorry,
the
bro.
yeah, it was six Monday through Saturday. Sundays was my complete rest day. No cardio, no training, 8,000 steps a day that way. So those days I did look forward to. Definitely the fall when football is on. I could just train my morning clients, go home and veggie out, relax, and put up the feet and carry out that way. 'Cause my legs do get fatigued very easily. Well, let's look at this way. I'm taking 50,000 steps, 75 minutes of
Yeah.
step mill. You're going to hold some water, right?
Yeah, yeah, for
That's kind of
sure.
approach leading into prep that way. So kind of cutting down, lowered some training volume as we got closer, up the cardio to drive the fat loss there. And we kind of went mainly off scale weight visuals, mainly just the visuals, kind of see how we look.
Did you have any interest in getting a Dex or anything like that just to see
See,
what
it's
you were at like stage weight time?
I'd be very interested. I know in this show, it's probably this next show where I'd be more interested in that too. 'Cause it's like I'm interested in it to begin with because of course I brought the best look I've ever had. I was the biggest, had the most muscle, the leanest ever been. I think I was 183 on stage, which is awesome because before that my natural show I was 160. So 23 pounds of tissue in 2 years is pretty cool in that sense.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Um, but this next time around, I'd be more interested in getting a DEXA done just to kind of see like where am I
Yeah.
at? How much muscle
Literally
mass
just
do I actually have?
for that, yeah,
Yes.
because it's so different person to person too. Because 10% on one person can look shredded, right? If they hold more of it in
Mhm,
their glutes or wherever they might
mhm.
hold it, where somebody else has to get to 5 to have the same look. So yeah, I'm always interested in that stuff. I think it's super important too, and just interesting as well that you obviously are a bodybuilding coach, a high level bodybuilding coach, but you still see the value in having a coach. So what do
Mhm.
you think was the most important thing going through this process of having a coach for yourself?
I'm a big believer in always remaining coachable. There's always something to learn out there, and I look for individuals who are quote unquote above me, have more experience, right? And I want to gain some wisdom, gain some knowledge from them. That's exactly what I'm doing here too. It's like we all have unique experience, unique stories. How did you do this to your clients, and how can I learn and apply and adapt that there too? So my big thing is always remaining curious and one other thing too, it's in a prep scenario. I want to get to the point where I'm like self coached on the line of I do want to do that because I want to kind of run my own experience of myself and go out that way too. But whenever I do get to a prep scenario, I do want second eyes on me in some way, shape, or form. Because as you go through, you definitely get prep goggles. I definitely tend to overthink my own shit for sure, in the sense that man, what am I doing? Should I make that poll? I don't want to get emotional in my responses that way too. That's why I think it's very good to have an objective point of view. Having a coach give you the objective point of view, because you know us, we're humans. We're gonna react emotionally to our things that way, or we don't look good enough, or whatever it might be that way. So just having that external point of view and someone you actually trust is going to be the biggest thing. Definitely in a prep scenario, any coach in general, you got to have that trust with. But definitely going through a prep scenario, I think it's something that you built a relationship that you know you can go through this with together, because it's much more than just giving you the macro breakdown. It's being there for you on the emotional level that way too, and actually giving a damn that shows true value there.
Yeah, and obviously, as you get further along in the process, emotions can, I'm sure, run a little wild too when you're only eating 1,200 calories a day and having somebody to rein you
Whoa,
back
you
in.
get short.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too because we're both very different ends of the spectrum on this too. Like I'm thinking about what it would look like coaching yourself. For me, I can easily delude myself that like I look fine. This looks great. I'm just going to keep cruising. Like, I don't need to do more cardio, whatever it is. Where I feel like you're almost on the other end of the spectrum where you would just see, like, I look good, but I could look better. I need to do more. Like, almost dig yourself into the ground with how focused and motivated you are. So, both ends, like somebody to kick me in the ass and be like, hey, Logan, you're still a little soft here. You need to ramp it up. Versus you, it's like, Jack, take your foot off the gas for a minute. So again, that N of one experience of like having somebody that can cater it specifically to you.
100%.
So walk me through a little bit of the show day. Like, what was that process like from a nerves perspective? Prep the day of, the days leading up, and then kind of what does the actual event look like? Because I think that's one of the things that people who do their first bodybuilding show have this experience of like, I basically blacked out. You do all this work, and especially if you're only in one category, it's like you're up there for 15 seconds or whatever it is, and then your whole day is done. So, like,
Mhm.
talk to me about that whole process.
Yeah, so I'll start with like the start at the beginning of that week, that peak week in general, because that's what everybody looks forward to, right? That more food's coming, you get to put up the feet and bring that best look to stage that weekend there. So at the beginning of the week, I remember we started like a fat load phase, kind of fill up my triglyceride stores. So we upped my fats by like just 40 grams of fat just from pure avocado oil. And that alone, I was excited. I think I gained like a pound or two, just kind of filled out, felt more full. But the big thing is on that Monday, I had a talk with Jack that day too. And I even told him, like, I want to be as present as possible through this experience because I know the last 20 weeks of quote unquote hell I went through was for this 1 week here, that peak week where I get to be surrounded by individuals that also work their ass off for the past 16, 20 weeks to bring their best self too. So I was just very grateful to be surrounded by individuals who supported me for that long time. And also the other competitors, had a lot of people at JackedNLeen competing also. So it's really cool seeing us all kind of come together towards those last few days and like, damn, we made it. A lot of them, I'm not food driven anymore. A lot of them were talking about their favorite foods, what they're gonna have after. It's like, dude, I straight up just want my oatmeal protein powder and some blueberries. It's exactly what I had too. But kind of leading up to showtime, we had a last pump up workout on that Thursday there. Friday was off. I competed on that Saturday. That Thursday was a ton of fun because we had a Trevor is another competitor, another one of Jack's clients. He lives in Iowa, came up to spend the night up there too, and he also competed in the show in Classic. I just remember we had a good pump session together. We had to pose down together. Just a lot of filming, videography going on. Just really being grounded in the moment again. No stress, kind of putting up your feet. You made it, right? This is a fun week there too. I got to eat some food, kind of going into that Wednesday, Thursday, held out on that Friday, and then refed up on that Saturday there too into showtime. So that Friday is when we get down into the hotel that way. And we're finding that look during peak week. That's what that peak week is really for, is finding the look. So it's not like, hey, go have a burger and fry and see what happens. I know a lot of people have that approach and sometimes it works, but that's completely random. And I'm not going to have that random approach with myself or my clients. Definitely when I just put 20 weeks in, I'm not going to sacrifice a burger before a show to have a spillover or something like that. So how we approach it is on that Wednesday, we took photos and check-ins before every meal that way. So AM fasted before meal one, before meal two, before meal three, whatever it might be
You can
that way. And
see
we
the
find that
adjustments that are
look.
happening to your body in
Yep.
real time. Yeah.
So, for example, I could see after two meals this way at X amount of calories, carbs, fats, and proteins, I was 182, for example. That's the look we want to put on stage. So now we know exactly on that Saturday, hey, Jack's going on at noon, 1 o'clock. We need to make sure he has this much fluid in him, this much X, Y, and Z in him for when he steps on stage because we want to mimic that 182, that look on stage. And what was on stage? That 182, 183. So we found it. We are able to mimic that and repeat it. What's really cool is that morning of, I actually was the lightest I've ever been. I lost like 6 pounds that night just from dropping off so much stress and fatigue, bro. I woke up at 179, like 8 that
Jeez.
morning. Like, shit, I look peeled, right? I look so good. But I also knew that, damn, I'm gonna have to feed up a little bit more that way, right? So that's where, thank God Jack was there, right? The sense of that's where it's nice to have that coach legit kind of holding your hand through it. I turned off my mind, didn't think about what I was doing. It's like, you tell me what to do, I'm going to do it. That's another reason I like having a coach in those scenarios because just enjoy the moment. I get to enjoy it that much more. Not like, all right, do I have 20 grams of honey on this? Should I have a salt? Should I have water? No, I'm just going to listen to my coach that way too. And show day came around that morning. I woke up. I wasn't nervous at all. But more nerves were just the fact that, damn, it's going to be over soon, right? I'm just kind of sad that this is, what am I supposed to do?
Coming to an
You just
end.
spent
Yeah.
20 weeks with this one direction there. Show day comes, woke up that morning. We got our check-ins done. I had to go touch up my tan, and then we had to head over to the venue right away. The athletes had to be there at like 8:30, 9 o'clock, I believe, for the mandatory check-in. I got to talk to some of the athletes there. Terrence was there. He's an Olympian athlete in the classic physique. We had some IFBB pros there too. Giving us some really cool talks that way too. Just very motivational. Even kind of saying what I mentioned before. It's not about the outcome on the stage, but the fact that we're here, right? In the sense that, yes, have that be a driving factor for you, but don't let that be the defining factor of you, right? So I think that's the big message you kind of spread that way. And it hit me home that way too and helped settle my nerves a bit more. Again, of course, you want to win, right? But it's not the reason I do it. I love the journey and the process of it. And that's why I want to go far in this industry. I have the conviction I will because I love the journey and the process through it. But I went on later in the day. I probably stepped on around noon ish for the first time around. So they have then you have like a 2 3 hour gap, then you have finals at the end there. So that show morning, I just chilled. I ate some food. I had my feet up. It was at Ames Center in Burnsville. It was a great venue. There's a bunch of like sitting area you can sit out in like the common areas. I chilled out there most of the time. Saw some buddies that came out to support me. Saw my family that came out to support me. Was able to talk to them. Jack was running back and forth because I think he had like 4 or 5 competitors in the show at the same
Oh,
time.
gotcha.
A couple in bikini, like Eileen and Christy, and then he had Rich. He's another guy that goes to the gym. He was in classic men's physique, and then classic was Trevor there. Then I was
Trevor. Yeah.
bodybuilding there. So he had 5 people in there, so he's all over the board. Didn't really see him until it was my time to shine, so to speak. So that's when you go back there, do the pump up, kind of weigh myself. I had solid foods in there, like legit. I ate what my food was on plan. I think the meal I had before I walked out there was some white rice, some cod, and some honey. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sick of cod right now, dude. I was saying
Yeah.
that.
I bet.
But then we mimic that out. We step on stage, we show it out. When I went out there, so I competed in true novice, and open light heavyweights. True novice, the first individuals out there, and I'll tell you that class for true novice, first time competitors NPC was pretty damn stacked, bro. In the sense, like, even the judges like these are true novices. Like, I got, I think I got third in that class, bro. I was like,
Wow.
holy crap, yeah, it was competitive as heck. It was just fun. It's tough when you look at somebody like, man, you just have another 20 years of and 10 pounds of tissue
Yeah.
on me. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's really cool to see that way. But I got my ass whooped in the sense of I got very fatigued very quick. When True Novice out there and they ran us through the ringer. They ran us, we're out there for, I kid you not, 7 minutes straight. Straight flexing
Jeez.
for 7 minutes, dude. They ran us through probably 4 or 5 rotations. And I got my glaze done right before that. I started sweating like a mother trucker right as soon as I got out there. That went in my head. Normally I don't let things get in my head, but as soon as that started sweating, I'm like, dude, my glaze is gonna ruin my look. And then it started kind of getting sweaty, so I couldn't like really grip like the front lat or anything that way too.
Mm,
So my breathing started going because I started panicking and my
yeah.
stomach started to move a bit. So I kind of let think in my head. Walked off stage like, okay, I'm not gonna let that ruin it again. Cause I wasn't in the moment at all for that, man. I was kind of just going for a means and end. Like I could get through this. And then, all right, Jack, you're going right away because novice is now back out there.
Yeah.
I got no rest, dude. I was like trying to dap myself off some towels. They sent me
Yeah.
back out there. I said a quick affirmation like, hey, don't let that ruin you. This is a new moment now. Went out there, and the rest of the show was seamless in that aspect. I took first in novice, and I think I took fourth in true novice, first in novice, and then third in the overall for light heavyweights that
That's
day too.
crazy. So you did better in novice than true
Yeah,
novice.
is
So
that
that just means
crazy?
some of the true novice guys didn't do novice
Yep,
too, right?
yep,
Yeah,
yep.
that's funny.
Is that
Yeah,
funny
that's
though? You'd be like,
one of
unreal.
the interesting aspects of bodybuilding too is it's like exactly like you said. One, you never have any idea who's going to show up, right? So that can completely throw you off. Like you could be the best in 49 states, like number one in 49 states, and all of a sudden some dude shows up from Iowa or wherever it is
Yep.
that's just yoked out of their mind, right? Or some, the next Ronnie Coleman who doesn't even know it yet and just decided he wanted to do this 5 weeks ago, and he's got fantastic genetics, right? So it's always kind of a crapshoot, but that's cool, man. And that was what I was going to ask you. So with the results, were you happy with that? Like, is that something you were excited about, or tell me a little bit more how
100%,
that
bro.
felt
Of course,
afterwards?
when you go into it, you want to do your best. But I knew subconsciously kind of going into it, if you gave me like another 2 weeks, I'm not saying that the placements would be better, but I know I would have brought a better look. I knew my posterior chain wasn't in quite yet, as in the sense my glutes and hammies weren't holding the weight there, right? The front side was pretty much in. My upper body stayed shredded. My quads came in good. Just the glutes and hamstrings weren't as strided as I wished that way. And I didn't let that get in my head. And when I approached it and I got the call outs, again, I'm just in the moment, bro. I'm supporting the other bros that are out there, and 100% it's a subjective sport, right? You got to go knowing it's kind of based off what the judges see. What are they looking for? Are they looking for mass? Are they looking for that extra line in the glute, you know?
Yeah.
So I kind of just take the blows that are thrown at me. And I don't take anything personal that way, too. It's just another day. But it definitely puts a chip on my shoulder. Like, how can I get better next time? What did I miss out? Not like, okay, no, that's stupid. That competitor didn't do better than me. Whatever it is. A lot of people look outwards. I do the opposite. I'll look inwards. So I'll look for the judges' feedback on what do I need to do, where do I need to grow, and obviously I know I need to come in a bit leaner next time throughout that too. Hence why we have that longer preps to begin with there too. But the placements didn't get to me mentally. It just kind of gets me more excited to. All right, I got fourth into a novice last time, first in novice this time, third in the light heavyweight overall. How can I do better next time? What do I need to bring up that way? And that's where I kind of had that game plan. Jack and I kind of sat down and where we want to go with it next. And I'm taking this year off, all of 2026, just to grow and add on some substantial tissue. Because next time I step on stage, I want to be the one that shows up that you just kind of mentioned there. It's like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah.
That's my kind
Yeah.
of mindset. It's like I want to be like, oh shit, who's this guy that showed up? Just have that front double be the kind of the showstopper, so to speak. Now, if there's another
Yeah.
freak there, bow down to that guy. But I want to
Yeah.
control my controls that way.
Yeah, well, it's so interesting too, and you guys are much more in the bodybuilding world than I am too. But anytime anybody's asked me about this stuff, it's like, until you get to like the actual pro level, it's so subjective. And even sometimes
Mm-hmm.
at the pro level, like for certain divisions and classes specifically, like what's in and what's the focus this year, but especially in like novice and just people doing the open categories and stuff, it's like you can go to a show in Wisconsin and it's completely different criteria than it is in
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota, which is
Mm-hmm.
completely different than Florida. So it's really one of those sports where, like you said, if your mindset is I have to win to be satisfied, like you're definitely in the wrong sport, because it
100%.
it it totally depends on these random people who happen to show up that day to be the judges. So I think that's such a good mindset, and just in general too, like it's a really good kind of transferable skill to everything else. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not about necessarily being the best, even though that's a great goal to have, but specifically when it comes to like physical exertion, or whether it's bodybuilding or running or whatever it might be, like whatever your thing is, it's like, did you actually show up and do your best? Well, if that's the case, who cares if you got first or
Exactly.
15th or whatever it is?
Mm-hmm.
So, some really good lessons there. And I think that kind of transitions well into last question just on the bodybuilding. Then I want to talk a little bit in these last few minutes about training style, how you kind of approach clients and stuff like that. When are you thinking for your next show? And then anything else worthwhile sharing, like lessons learned over the course of this experience?
Next show. So I'm 24 right now. I turned 25 in June. I don't have like my next show. I would love to be able to make a run for a pro card. That's my goal
Okay.
there. Now, whether I get a pro card,
Can you
I can't
explain a little
control
bit
that.
what that means, like what that would look like from a competition perspective?
I'd have to do like another Minnesota State show, for example. There's a lot of different like local shows, but it has to be some sort of NPC national qualifier show. So once you win NPC, you have to win your class. Novice, true novice doesn't really matter. I'd have to win that light heavyweights class, so to speak. If I win that class, then I qualify for nationals. But I want to win the class, and I also want to win the overall the show. So how it works is if you win your class, you face the other class winner, so to speak, for the overall title. And this Mr. Minnesota was the coin title of Minnesota State. So if you win your class and you win the overall of the other class winners, you get coined Mr. Minnesota. And no matter what, all those people on stage are competing for the Minnesota title. They got their national like ticket, so to speak, clipped off. But I'd love to be able to like win that, but also win the title there too, because that just gives me that much more confidence. Like, all right, I just won the show here. I can go here and I'll compete against these national guys, right? So if you win your local class, Now you go to nationals. So say it's something where I don't do it until not this coming November, but the following November there, and then do another Minnesota State. There's a national show right after that, like 2 weeks later in Texas, one of the bigger national shows. I'd have to go there, and I think I'd place top two in my class that way, first and second. I don't know if I feel like they change it, so don't quote me on that. But I'd have to get like
I think
top
it's
two, or
usually first and second. Yeah.
I believe so.
Depending on
Yep.
how big the show is. Yeah.
Yep. So first, they say it is first and second. If I get first or second out of those categories, now that's where competition gets tighter and tighter. Now they're counting hairs, so to speak, right? Then you win your pro card. So going pro is obviously a feat. It's very hard. And then beyond that, obviously, just gets that much harder to go to the next levels beyond that there too. But that'd be the kind of my time frame. Next time I want to go on stage, I want to be competitive as heck. That's the goal of right there. Now, whether I go and get a pro card at 26, I can't control that, but I want to do everything I can each and every day to get to that point. So I think that kind of ties into the lesson that bodybuilding has really taught me, but what the gym has really taught me is just like being in the moment. It's the only thing you can control that way, and love every moment, the highs and the lows. Right? You can't control what comes at you, but you can control and how you perceive it, and that's exactly what bodybuilding taught me in the sense that, man, I'm choosing to have this cardio and this low food. I can't complain about it. If I complain about it, it's only gonna make things worse. If I'm in this moment and I embrace every moment, I'm going to get more out of those moments. I'm going to learn what I'm truly capable of, and I can express that outwards, learn, apply, and adapt, and speak my truth on those things and show how limitless we really are. We limit ourselves so often, and that's why I like to do hard things, right? By doing hard things, it shows that, man, I do rise up. I do fail, 100%. I do fail, but through those failures, I can learn and continue leveling up because you don't rise to your goals, you fall to your standards and systems. Because of this, I can continue raising my standards and systems, evolving into new me's each and every day, chasing excellence.
That. So, as we transition, and those are some great lessons just for training as well. But talk to me a
Mm,
little bit about we got about 10 minutes left here.
sweet.
Talk to me a little bit about your coaching. What is it like? And you've already talked about kind of your ideal clients, but what do you specifically offer to clients? Is it workouts? Is it nutrition? Is it blood? Like, go through a little bit of what that offering looks like for maybe, because I'm sure there's variations, right? Some people might
Hmm.
just come to you for training or whatever, but specifically somebody who's working with you for the holistic package, what does that package look like?
Perfect. Yeah. So if you're looking for the holistic package, we obviously work with where you're at. But if I were to recommend something to somebody that way, I definitely recommend our all comprehensive online coaching aspect on top of some personal training if they would so choose personal training on top of that too. But pretty much what we cover there is anything and everything. We don't just give like a program for here's your nutrition plan, here's your training plan. We want to help you establish and teach you rhythms and flows to get in, right? It's a new way of living because once you establish these rhythms and flows and you're truly in these rhythm and flows, you fire on all levels. And that's by building different structures. And that structure is going to create a strong body, strong mind, strong life. Our philosophy, our goal here is to create more well-rounded, robust, hard to kill individuals. And that comes from raising your standards and these systems. And what we have to offer is how to raise those standards and systems in health longevity terms there. So what we offer is full on nutrition, full on training, supplementation, cardio and steps, and these daily and weekly check-ins. Those daily weekly check-ins is where we track different trends on what's going well, what's not going well, and it's very dynamic each and every week. So, example, I have a lot of my check-ins done on Saturdays. That way, they do the Saturday morning check-ins. I look at their week from prior, their workouts, their nutrition log, all that there, and then from there, depending on what their goals are for the said individual, we make the adjustments if and where needed to keep that trend kind of rolling down the path towards their end result, their end goal.
Yeah, I love that. So, and you guys have specifically a JackedNLeen app, which I think
Mhm.
makes things a lot easier. A lot of companies or coaches online will kind of white label something, and I know that's what you guys use. But I really like because I've used the app that you had before, and it's kind of all
Okay.
encompassing, right? So you can track your workouts, you can
Mhm.
track your nutrition, you can communicate directly with your coach, and
One
there's a
main
lot of
hub for
apps.
everything.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a lot of apps that do that, but a lot of them are not ideal. Like
Mhm.
something's missing, like the communication sucks, or the upload suck, or the nutrition piece sucks. But I really like the one that you guys have, and I'm
Heck yeah,
sure there's been
appreciate that.
upgrades and stuff since I've used it too. So, what is the typical? Wait, well, let me ask you this first. What do you think is different with your program than other programs out there? Because specifically, you talked about online coaching. There's so many online coaches. What kind of makes Jacked and Lean specifically stand out as something that's different or more substantial?
I say it's even with like Jacqueline Umbrella. I think what's unique about it is you're gonna get it's the same principal message from all of us, but in our own unique perspectives. That's what I really like about it. It's like I'm part of JackedNLeen, but I own my own part of JackedNLeen, right? I'm my own brand, my own vessel of JackedNLeen, so to speak. And one thing I really kind of stand out with my coaching is the relationship I build with the individuals. I can tell right away, and certain individuals are doing things for means to ends or kind of following more dogma protocols that way when it should be again n equals one. And I had to really get deep with my clients that way too. Some of the questions I'll ask them are pretty deep right off the bat. I'm a very bold individual. I'll pretty much get right to it right away. I'm a very spiritual individual also, and those are things I like to encompass into my coaching philosophy, my coaching aspect there. And personally, I've seen it connect with so many different individuals because again, I'm trying to help you create a strong body, strong mind, strong life. I'm not telling you how to live. I'm kind of giving these guiding principles that can help guide you to how you want to live, right? And again, how I preached at the beginning, it's more so that mindset approach. And that's something I like to dig on big time with my clients. That's why I'll send them 15-minute Loom videos kind of talking through different stressors, helping them unwind. So I feel like a lot of people miss those aspects, and that's something we dig deeper on here at JackedNLeen. Again, you can give a great nutrition plan and a great this, and say someone's digestion's off. Well, why is their digestion off? Well, maybe they need more fiber. Some people just throw fiber at them, right? How do you know that's the issue? Let's dig a bit deeper. By digging a little bit deeper, maybe you realize they have a very stressful job. Because they have a very stressful job, they're not able to digest foods right, and it's keeping them constipated or giving them loose stools, or it might be that way. So you're able to unwind those variables there and establish a good rhythm flow. Holy crap, I didn't realize that stress. I feel a lot better. I practiced that deep breathing. I was able to digest my food better. Now my weight stall is no longer stalled. I'm seeing more weight loss. So I think we just ask questions that take it a layer deeper there, and that kind of separates us apart from other individuals I've seen that way. Everybody has their unique approach to it. It's just the approach I like to take is get a layer deeper and get a little more personal with the people I get to work with that way. I find it a true blessing that they're allowing me to do what my calling is on this earth. And I find true value in anybody that takes trust in me to help them get the results they want to see that way. And because they give that trust in me, I'm willing to do anything and everything to help them get the results they want.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's certainly different because a lot of programs are just specifically what you mentioned. Like, here's your nutrition, here's your workout.
Mhm.
Maybe you'll hear from your coach, get some video feedback. That's about it. So to actually have that communication, I think is definitely something that can separate you. Just last thing here as we kind of wrap up. What would you define your coaching style as? Because obviously Jack kind of comes from a high intensity training background. I know he sort of modified that. You guys are under the bodybuilding umbrella. How would you kind of describe your coaching style to somebody that's coming in that maybe has some experience with lifting before, and they're like, "Are we doing a bro split? How is this going to look?" And obviously, again, n of one, like it's going to differ person to
Mhm.
person, but just big picture, how would you kind of just define how you train and program?
Typically, I like to start out with it. It depends on if I'm working more so with individuals that are in it, like who are coming to me. So, say individuals like you and I who know the gym, who kind of come in it. My philosophy approach to them is more so kind of diversify motions, just like I kind of diversify nutrition that way, and not doing one motion 4 or 5 times. Now it comes down to what exercise we have availability that way too. But I'm a big believer in kind of diversifying those motions. So, for example, let's take like a leg day, like a posterior day. Instead of doing 4 sets of an overhand pull down and 4 sets of this, 4 sets of like an overhand row, how can we diversify that a bit more? Maybe do 2 hard working sets until that breaking point of failure. So more of that high intensity, so to speak, low total volume, but now we can allocate that volume towards more specific needs on those individuals to bring up lagging body parts in. Now it kind of goes off those needs analysis, that feedback. How's recovery? How's this? Can we add in more volume? Kind of taking that approach. My approach is kind of get the most out of least, then adding in where needed. Minimal effective volume, adding in where needed, depending on again their goals and where they're at with their training.
Yeah, and I think that's just a great approach in general for just like Gen Pop clients, especially
Mhm.
instead of just hammering them with volume, but also people who are coming in who maybe have a traditional bodybuilding background and they're used to like, oh yeah, I just do 5 sets of this specific row, and then I do 5 sets. It's like, why
Mhm.
don't you, like you said,
Mhm.
diversify, your planes of movement and where you're actually pulling from and how you're
100%.
actually utilizing the different muscle groups and trying to bring up lagging body parts, like you mentioned. I think that's great. Okay, last one, and then we'll kind of wrap this up. If
Perfect.
someone is working or looking to work with a coach, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you? Kind of talk to me about how you find clients. Maybe is it typically through Instagram or is it in person at the physical gym? Talk to me a little bit about that.
So it's a lot of times I drive a lot of my business through my Instagram, and that's one big cool thing about this. A lot of people think you need a big following to be successful. I can tell you now, people who have 100,000 followers, and I don't do this for money, probably make less than I do in that sense. It's about that conversion rate in the sense of, again, I think it comes down to building those relationships because I established that online, and through online, I get a lot more referrals because you get people results, they start talking, and it kind of goes through. Now, I have
Can
multiple
you
different
give me
sources.
an idea of how many followers you have, just so we can kind of put that in a
Yeah,
frame of reference compared to
I
those
want to
bigger?
say it's right around like 3,000 to
Yeah.
3,400.
So
So
nothing
nothing,
crazy.
nothing crazy, and it's a sense of like even on my posts. I mean, I'll get some posts that, I mean, my average likes is probably only 25 likes on there too, and something that I used to. I of course, who doesn't want more followers, right? But it's not what I post out there. I want the right followers. That's kind of my approach with it, and I do truly trust that if I keep putting myself out there, my true authentic self, the right people are going to gravitate towards me, and that has happened so far. And I'm one to stick to your gun, so to speak, and don't be someone you're not just to gain leverage and gain more likes or gain more recognition, so to speak, because they'll come back to bite you, in my opinion. If you continue to spreading your authentic self out there and being yourself, they're going to recognize that and come back through that. I mean, that's why a lot of my posts on style lifts, I always do like some sort of like philosophical like car talk in the morning that way, because that stuff's like I truly just like posting it. You know, I think I find
Yeah.
value from it. I like to speak it out there, and it's amazing how many people kind of go through that. But on top of that, yes, it's through the gym, a lot of like running people through sets, word of mouth that way, getting in contact that way. But mainly it's just a lot of referrals at this time frame, man.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Any best way to contact you, Jack, if people are interested in learning more, maybe working with you?
Yeah, so you can either find me at Stiele Lifts on Instagram, Stiele Lifts. That's just on IG there. It's really my main platform. I don't have TikTok or anything like that. Or I have a great email, Jack Stiele, Stiele, at JackedNLeen.com, JackedNLeen.com. Those are the best two sources right there to get in touch with me.
Great. And I'll link those in the description. Jack,
Appreciate
this was
that.
awesome, man. I really appreciate your, vulnerability, sharing your experience going through all of that stuff. And then I think just the coaching aspect certainly resonated with me, and I'm sure it'll resonate with other people as well, as far
Appreciate
as
that.
just this is about the journey, right, not the destination. Specifically for bodybuilding, like if you're there to be the next, CBum or Ronnie Coleman, you're probably going to be sorely disappointed because there's only
Hmm.
one CBum, there's only one
Hmm.
Ronnie. So just being the best version of yourself is, I think,
Love
just a
that.
great message in general. So thank you so much for taking the time, man. I really appreciate it. Any other parting wisdom before I let you go?
I think we killed that, man. I appreciate you having me on that way too. I had a ton of fun that way. And my biggest advice, man, just continue being in the moment. The moment's the gift, the moment's the blessing, the moment's all you have. Think upon that.
Yeah, yeah, something, the future, that's why it's called the present or something. I totally
Yep,
screwed
yep,
that
yep,
quote up. But you know what I'm
yep.
talking about.
Yep,
It's
I know
like
exactly what you're talking about,
something about
dude.
the future, something about the past. Right now,
Dude,
that's why they
all you
call it the
can
present.
control is
Yeah,
right now. Stress, anxiety is
yeah,
found in the future and past. Right now is the blessing, man. Right now is the
yeah, yeah,
blessing.
for sure. Well, that was great, Jack. I really appreciate you taking the time. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll be back in a couple weeks. Make sure to like and follow, and we'll see you all again soon. Thanks, Jack.
Sweet.